Said who's there? Well, it ain't fucking Frosty. Welcome to the Hey You Guys podcast. I'm Rob, that's Liam. And this week we're braving the frostbite, dodging icicle shanks, and diving into the most unhinged Christmas horror of the 90s, Jack Frost. No, not the one with Michael Keaton. This is the film where a serial killer mutates into a wisecracking snowman after a freak accident with genetic goo. Forget Santa Claus. This holiday season, the only thing coming down your chimney is a carrot-nosed psychopath with a penchant for pun-based murder. And let's not forget Agent Manners, who feels less like a hardened FBI man and more like Bryan Cranston if you ordered him off Temu. Same energy, just with a knockoff badge and dialogue that sounds like it was written on a snow globe. Also, I'll admit I defended the sheriff's son when people called him a psycho. He's just a kid, I said. Then I saw him casually making oats with antifreeze, and suddenly the psycho diagnosis didn't seem so unfair. But the real star here is Jack Frost himself. Every kill is so gloriously camp it feels like a pantomime gone wrong. Whether he's strangling people with fairy lights, cracking one-liners colder than the North Pole, or melting into a bathtub like Frosty auditioning for A Nightmare on Elm Street. So Liam, since this is your first time braving the snowman slaughter, I've got to ask, does Jack Frost belong in the pantheon of horror icons alongside Freddy, Jason and Michael Myers? Or is he more like the creepy uncle who turns up at Christmas, makes everyone uncomfortable, and then disappears back behind that curtain until next year?
I mean, I think you know the answer to that. I think even this movie's most ardent supporters wouldn't put them in the pantheon of great horror villains. Yes, I'd never seen this film before. I never knew it existed. When you said Jack Frost, I was like, the Michael Keaton one. That's bizarre. Bizarrely released just a year later, like you mentioned, with the exact same name. This is a very different movie. I guess the first question is this movie good? Now, right, there are two questions. The first one is very easy to answer, and that is it good? Like, is this an objectively good film? Like, absolutely not. Like, bad direction, mostly bad acting, some terrible dialogue. It's just, it's not a well-made film. It's not a well-acted film. It's not a well-written film. So the really important question is it fun? Like, and that's really what this film is about. And at first, I was like, nope, this is just bad. I'm not gonna no pun intended, I warmed to this film. I did.
Yeah.
It's never great. It's never quite as violent as I wanted it to be, which was a strange thing.
Yeah, and when they give Jack more to do towards the end, it starts to get more fun. I totally agree.
Yes, I agree.
But, it doesn't seem to get going. It's all a bit. Well, camp is probably the best thing because. I mean, the first thing for me is you see the poster of Jack Frost. That's the villain you want, this weird icically goblin thing. But then the actual killer, or the actual Jack Frost, is a snowman. He looks lovable.
Mind.
He looks he's so unassuming. But then when you have his where the hand comes out and like the camera's attached to his arm, and it's just was it like a teddy bear arm or something, and it doesn't work. And like when Jack is killing the poor family, he got taken out in one night, the entire fucking family.
The Metzners.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my really hot take on this film is the Metzners, but we'll get to them in a bit.
And it was just like when she died and she's wrapped around the fairy lights and then put up on the tree, and the way the camera angles are shooting her being killed.
Sally Metzner,
Sally Metzner, not
Jill.
Elizabeth. Not Jill. What was it?
Shannon Elizabeth.
Shannon Elizabeth, sorry, yeah. No, not Jill, the actual mum, when she's killed. I mean, the best, or one of
that's
the
most inventive. That's the most inventive kill in the film. That was the one sequence where it's pretty gross. And I was like, I wasn't sure about the choice of music, but every time, every moment in this film, when suddenly it gives, it always takes something away. There's always an issue I have with every sequence, even when it's getting closer to what I want the film to be. But and I think part of it is the budget. They had a limited budget. They spent $50,000 on a snowman who really couldn't move. So they were really limited with what they could do. And I don't think they really chose a side in terms of, are we going to be gross or are we going to be really campy and really cheesy with the special effects? I mean, and in the end, because they don't pick a lane, it just feels slightly lame sometimes.
What you could do a year later with a bit of a bigger budget. Because look at how Michael Keaton's Jack Frost moves. He's purely CGI for most of it. And making him the killer, the way that moves, it would have been.
Oh, if they had the budget needed. Yeah.
You said that she was the most inventive death. I argued that the most inventive death had to be the boy. When Jack trips him over and he gets his head chopped off by, I'm guessing, the sled that's been sharpened to 100% of its sharpness.
Well, that was that's the I forget his name, but that's the Metzner son. So the whole Metzner clan are proper psychos in this film. But that was I had kind of started to get my hopes up.
Billy Metzner, wasn't it? Was it Billy
Metzner? Thank you.
Yeah.
So the opening sequence when they're kind of driving into town and they get in the ridiculous crash with the acid truck, of course, whatever you want to call it. It's like that whole sequence is filmed in quite a different way to the rest of it. It's filmed more like kind of Creepshow or Tales from the Crypt. And I was quite positive on that.
They weren't on the same road though.
What's that?
They weren't on the same road because I argue. Sorry to interrupt you. I argue that the prison transport is going through the world's worst blizzard because those two guards are sat right next to each other. Like literally, the one guard is sat on his lap, the driver's lap.
Yeah, exactly.
The only win. But then when you go to the acid truck, there's no blizzard or snowstorm that he's driving through. He's happily just pouring his coffee, just living life. Are
you suggesting that there are cinematic inconsistencies in 1997's Jack Frost? No, sir, no.
I mean, it's a hot take, but yes, I might be suggesting that.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And we'll get to the whole, the whole acids narrative, which, basically, sorry, if we're just going to deal with it right now, they've ostensibly created acid that would bind human DNA to inanimate objects so we can survive a potential apocalypse. Like, you only find this at the end of the film. It's absolutely bananas. So all of a sudden, they're kind of positing the fact that this acid, which basically is just Gremlins 2, but for humans, I think we can all agree that's exactly what it is super important. It's just like some dude driving down some country road in Denver in a snowstorm. It's just like on his own. I think if it was that important, you think maybe they'd take a bit more care, but will allow it. But that, of course, leads to Jack Frost. And just to be clear, Jack Frost is the killer's actual name, yeah?
Yeah.
And he just so happens to turn into a killer snowman in Snowmanton. That just want to double check that, yeah?
It is the chef's kiss of luck, as it were.
Well, I mean, we've mentioned it a few times on this podcast. It is without question the greatest example of nominative determinism you will ever find on screen.
Yeah.
A guy called Jack Frost who just by chance gets sprayed in the face with acid, turns into a killer snowman and commits a killing spree in Snowmanton, which he just by chance already happens to be in. It's absolutely outrageous. It gives you an idea of just how dumb this film is. And of course, you have to just go with it. But like I said, the opening sequence, the way they shot, I was like, oh, this feels like a bit of a Tales of the Crypt episode. I actually thought the sequence where Jack Frost gets turned into, the actual snowman, I thought it was pretty cool. Initially, the bit where they showed like his cells, I thought they were going to go full Osmosis Jones because it looked animated almost.
It was animated, yeah. I forgot about that part. It was animated, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were going to have a whole section, but no, it's just that one very brief scene. But the bit when, we mentioned Gremlins 2, the bit where he's in the snow and he's kind of melting into the snow and all his skin's coming off, that bit really does look like the end of Gremlins 2, just with the human. I'm just like, all right, that bit's baller. And then they cut straight to old man, what's his name, Harper, where he's dead in the chair and his neck is kind of like being snapped back. And I was like, oh, this might turn into proper horror. And it's actually a good bit of writing where like the chair keeps rocking back and forth. And he says, he's like, can you stop fucking rocking the chair? He's like, oh, sorry, my bad. And I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. But then you get into town and suddenly the writing just drops off a cliff. Aesthetically, it's just not as interesting. And I'm just like, oh, it's not quite the film I wanted it to be. But there are moments at least.
There are moments. And jumping straight to the end, we won't do spoilers for the actual ending just yet. But when they're burying the antifreeze, there's a guy in the background using antifreeze to fill up his car. Okay, so they're burying the antifreeze that supposedly has him in it.
Yeah.
But then somebody's using the same antifreeze to fill up his car. So is that just another bottle of antifreeze, or is that like? And why would you put that in there? I don't understand why you would just have a guy just filling up his truck with antifreeze, his engine of antifreeze. It
seems strange. I'm going to go on record and say I just don't think they thought out the script at all. I mean, you mentioned in the intro about his son Ryan. It is Ryan, isn't it?
Ryan.
Who is the big one of the I mentioned the Metzens are all psychos in this film, but Ryan, who is like, I was just like, his whole family dynamic is gross. He's just twee as fuck, like, Dad, you're the best dad. And then I realized, oh, he's not twee. It's because they've raised a fucking serial killer. It's like, oh, what did you make me? You made me a bag of what initially appears to be a bag of shit. It looks like his son has made him a bag of shit and he puts it in a clear bag. So he's just like, Jesus Christ. Then you find out he's made like oatmeal, which is mental for a kid to make his dad anyway. And
Yeah.
then he just casually says, "Oh, Dad, I put antifreeze in the oatmeal to keep you warm." Oh, I see. He's not a serial killer. Your son's he's retarded. He's
An
retarded. Like, what the
absolute,
fuck?
he's a lunatic. Do you know what you said as well that like the writing went downhill? You didn't think that this had like a direction to go with.
Mhm, mhm.
There's a reason for that. I'm going to jump straight into facts here, right?
Yeah.
So the film was given complete creative freedom.
Mhm.
The original company that agreed to finance the movie went bankrupt just weeks before filming. The bank oversaw the film, but it left the filmmakers alone. It just wanted a 90-minute movie in a video package. This
Mhm.
gave Michael Cooney and the producers complete autonomy with whatever they wanted to do. They didn't have to run anything through anybody, which to them was a luxury to have. So literally, that whatever they wanted to put on screen just went. They just like the bank just wanted something to help with the bankruptcy. So they just, "Oh, just do what you want."
Well, in fairness, it is exactly 90 minutes long. But I guess one of the other reasons is, and I'm not sure how true this is, but when this was initially pitched, the idea was that it was going to be directed by Rennie Harlin. It got as far as Gina Davis reading the script, who did say it was the worst script she's ever read. But it was initially going to be a cross between The Abyss and Shocker with a budget of 25 to 35 million. So quite obviously, that hasn't worked out. And then they've ended up, it's like, oh, can you make a low budget equivalent of this? Get out the door, make it 90 minutes. Here's creative freedom. And you end up with this. There are flashes of good stuff here. And I do think fundamentally at its core, it's a good idea. It's just so messy. As I said, it's like you mentioned in the intro about the puns. It's like, all right, I quite like what's his name who plays Jack Frost? Scott McDonald.
Scott McDonald, yeah.
You know, again, he very much has that. I can totally see him in an episode of Tales from the Crypt. And I won't keep bringing that up, but it really does have that vibe for it. It's certainly for the first like 20, 30 minutes. But and I get it. Based on the tone they're going for, he kills people. He's a goofy snowman, but he has puns. The problem is, nearly every pun is dog shit. They're all terrible. They're like you know, you think of like Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin. At least his puns fundamentally make sense. I'm not saying they're good, but they make sense. A lot of the puns in this, I mean, they barely hang together. It's just bad writing.
I agree, but I did like ask you a question. I just wanted to ask you a question as
Yeah,
he jammed
that's
and axed on the guy's throat. I like the doctor as well, with the doctor kept trying to explain all of this away. But his neck's been ripped bad, but his face looks like they give him a pillow. Like something really soft grabbed this. Do you get what I'm saying? It was snow. Snow hit him in the face. And then the other one, it was like something. There should be scratch marks either side of the handle where he moved it down his throat. No. They just jammed this straight down. You know, so it was somebody really tall and really strong, like a snowman.
Like a snow, and I also quite like the very Irish priest who just randomly pops up in the background every so often, just to be and basically to be nothing else but an Irish priest. But then most of the characters are wonderfully one note. Like just after, as I said, the death of what's his name, Old Man Harper, and the sheriff goes into town. So was the sheriff Sam Tiller? Is it Tiller or Tyler? It's Tiller, isn't it?
I thought Tyler, but I'll go with Tiller.
Or maybe it is Tyler. It's Tiler. Oh, we'll say Tyler. So Sheriff Sam, he goes into town, and this clumsy shot of him basically introducing himself to everybody who's about to be killed in this movie. Everyone just has to have like a little line, so it's just like, well, you're gonna die, and they all die, of course. Yeah. But the family who ultimately steer the show, though, are the Metzners, who are absolutely fucking batshit from back to front.
All of them are insane in their own way. I mean, Elizabeth, I keep forgetting her name. Fucking hell. Shannon Elizabeth, who plays Jill, is first of all staring at Sheriff Sam like he's eye candy. Like the way she's looking, hi Sheriff, and like she wants to jump his bones. Then
that's her only character trait is horny. Yeah. That's it. That's her only character trait.
The irony being, I'm going to say irony a lot in this film. The irony being in how she dies. They filmed that scene.
I'm not sure if we want to refer to a rape scene as ironic, but yes.
So they filmed that scene, not as a rape scene, just as him bashing his head against the wall. But when the producer turned around and said, you know what that looks like, they had Jack do a bunch of sex puns. So, no, we raped her to death.
And just be clear, if you haven't seen this film, and you're just like, wait, what? This is a Christmas movie which has a rape scene which is played for laughs in this film. So I was watching it, it's all kind of silly, and I was just like, wait a minute. Is this a rape sequence? I was like, that's exact. And you realize the nose is missing. You're like, Jesus Christ. And they really do play it for yucks. And some people will find that unpleasant, uncomfortable. I just found it personally so ludicrous that I couldn't believe it was happening. It's so, and the thing is, it all like I was already in the mindset in that sequence because it's Shannon Elizabeth. So you think, oh well, she's just had she's having a bath sequence. That should be for a gentleman of a certain age
in somebody else's house.
Yeah, but there's so many things in the build up to it which are mental. So I'm right. She gets to the guy's house, right? To basically, we're going to the middle of the film here, but Jill, whose whole family has just been killed, doesn't give a fuck.
Doesn't know this, by the way, because she's left. She doesn't know this. She doesn't know they've been killed yet.
Okay,
she knew her little brother had been killed, but she didn't know mum and dad were dead.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
See, I thought she said at one point that she's like, oh, if you don't take me inside, I might get sad about things. I thought she knew. Maybe she doesn't. It doesn't matter. It's weird. So they decide to go to the sheriff's house when he's not there. Her boyfriend, who goes from like not interested in her at all, which doesn't make any sense, to super interested in a moment. All right, fair enough. She then decides to go upstairs. She dries her hair. She puts on the hairdryer in some other dude's house. I'm just like, what? Like, they're not wet. She then, after she dries her hair, she then gets in the bath. You're like, what the fuck? She asks for a drink. She goes, oh, make me a bottle of wine. He puts ice in the wine. All right, what the fuck's going on? And then they then proceed to have the least sexy bath sequence of all time. They're clearly trying to play it off as a sexy bath sequence with Shannon Elizabeth. It's not sexy at all. And just as you're getting this all to your head, you're like, wait a minute, that snowman is raping Shannon Elizabeth to death. What the fuck? It's 5 of the craziest minutes I've ever seen in any movie.
Her hand was trapped as well in the snowman whilst he's
yeah.
But then and there's a lockdown, there's a curfew on it. Most of them are in the church. But then you cut to outside the sheriff's house where all of a sudden the bathroom has a massive window with frosted glass.
Yeah.
And apparently she's waving a passerby. But her hand is still trapped in the snowman when it goes back. But why is the passerby outside waving when he should be in curfew?
Yeah, well, that was the other thing with that passerby. I was just like, is he someone important? Because he had like a weird coat. And it felt like it was an important thing, but it didn't seem to go anywhere. And I was like, why are they waving next to... But yeah, a lot of this film doesn't make sense. And it's probably best if you plan on watching this. And just in case you're interested, it's available to watch for free on Tubi. And I think it's on, is it Pluto? Plex. Pluto. I'm just making, is Pluto a thing as well? Or am I making it up?
Pluto's a thing. No, I think Pluto's
okay, fair enough. It's on Plex as well. Actually, going on to total side notes, I hadn't been on Tubi for ages. It's actually a lot of pretty cool films on Tubi.
Yeah.
Although the one, like when a movie, and we get the same on Amazon Prime, when a movie finishes, it just auto plays the next one. To give you an idea of what you're working with on Tubi, it went directly from Jack Frost into Ice Spiders, which had, I'm not sure if they linked them up based on IMDb score and Rotten Tomato score, but has almost the exact same ratings as this film.
So mine went to Elf in a Shelf or Elf on a Shelf.
Is that a horror film?
The
fantastic.
Elf is trying to kill you. Yeah.
What would you prefer to watch, Ice Spiders or Elf? I'm sticking with Ice Spiders. I think I got the better deal there.
Yeah, probably. Although if we're going Christmas themed, I'll stick with Elf on a Shelf, just taking you out. So
fair enough. Yeah. It makes sense. But I'm sure a lot of people watch these terrible films.
Speaking of death, and we're talking about irony, and I'm going to go a bit real life dark for a minute because I don't want to do it at the end of the episode. Christopher Allport, who played Sam, died in 2008.
And he is, just to be clear, the best thing in this film by a country mile. Like he is he's so much better at acting than everyone else in this film. It's genuinely noticeable.
How did he die in real life?
I assume he wasn't raped to death by a snowman.
No.
Sorry, that was very dismissive, but yeah, sorry.
Avalanche.
Shut the front door. Really?
Yes. Yep.
Was he in the sequel as well?
He was, yeah. Well, the sequel was filmed in 98, but didn't release until 2000. So he basically, I think, went straight from this to the sequel.
No. I'm pretty sure this was also filmed in 94, but wasn't released until 97. It basically sat on the shelf for ages because basically they made the film. Like the whole thing is just like, can you just make this film? And they looked at it and gone like, what the hell are we going to do with this? Eventually, whatever. Yes, I am burying the lead here.
We're burying the lead.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
But he died. He died on January 25th, 2008 in an avalanche in, San Bernardino, California.
That is wild. And luckily for him, I guess most people wouldn't associate it with Jack Frost because I can't really get a feel for how popular this film is because I had a look online and obviously it's not a good film, as I said, but there does seem to be a bit of a cult following for this film. There is a bit of love out there, and I think everyone, similar to what I said at the start, I think everyone appreciates it's a bad film, but it's the whole, is it good bad, because I always think there are two categories. There are movies that just didn't work but are still fun. Maybe this is a bad example because I do really enjoy it, but you think of like Masters of the Universe, The Core, Super Mario Brothers, Battlefield Earth, Batman and Robin. These are films made with a big budget where they've clearly tried to make a good film. It just hasn't worked at all, but there's a certain level of campy fun about it. Whereas this is in a different category of, I don't think anyone thought at any moment that they were making a classic. They were just like, this is dumb fun. We just hope it's fun enough. And sometimes it is. It's just, it doesn't quite stick the landing. And again, for me, it always comes back to the kills just not being, dare I say, visceral enough, for lack of a better term.
It's everything. Like, it's not just the kills, though, is it? It's like, how is he driving a car with no feet?
God knows. Well, if you're about Rob, usually we have a section here called Rob's Take. You could pick like any moment of this film because none of it really makes sense. Yeah, he's in the car. What the fuck's going on?
Or in the cells, you've got a janitor's closet in the cells that just has air fresheners and bug bombs that you can take down, and they will spray for, I don't know, forever. And the one thing they did in this film was one too many times was the amount of time it takes the sheriff to do something. Him leaning over to take the keys out of the door dragged on for fucking ever. It really, really got to me. And then when he's in the car,
lost my shit.
Yeah. When he's in the car at the end as well, and he was doing the same thing when he was trying to hotwire the car. Yeah. That seemed to drag on as well. It was like
that sequence is bad, but to bring it back to the sequence, so this is when they trap, when you initially think that they've killed Jack Frost, and they've trapped him in the cells at the sheriff's station.
Yeah.
And basically, there's a whole bunch of issues with that sequence. So the first is, as you say, someone's like, "Oh, do we have any aerosol in the station?" He goes, "Yeah," and he opens the cabinet right next to him, and I swear to God, there's like 700 bottles in there, just by chance. All right, fair enough. Then they realize they need to escape. There's a window, but it has a lock on it. Also, it's a fucking window, dude. It's a window. Smash the window. You've got guns, your hands, anything. But oh my God, there's a lock. So, all right, we'll stick with the lock now as if they've got to unlock it. The sequence with the key was legitimately one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. I was like, am I missing something? Why is it taking him so fucking long to grab this key? Like, please tell me you've got an answer.
Well, he couldn't reach it because he didn't want to step into Jack Frost. Jack Frost was the water on the bottom.
Yeah,
so it's a stretch, but that's basically where he couldn't happen. And if we're talking about that, when he hides back in the church, at the end of the film, when he's running from Jack Frost, at the end of the film, and he runs into what I believe was the church. But when they were upstairs, it sounded like they were in a brothel because everybody else is fucking, and one person says, "That's my wife outside." So it sounds like all of a sudden they're in a brothel. But in order to stop Jack coming through the door, because nothing stopped him previously, he snuck through houses, he snuck through car air vents.
Yeah, you can turn into puddles. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
so he grabs leaflets off flyers off a notice board to jam them into the door, and then his scarf. What's he doing? Just fucking run. Why are you jamming paper into the crack? And the cracks in the door was fucking massive as well. They were fucking...
Exactly. It was so stupid. Like you said, right? Even though it still doesn't really make sense. If he was wearing like a big coat and he took off his coat and he was jamming that into the door and something down the side, sure. Instead, he's taking these tiny little bits of paper, which are just going to absorb it and going to give up immediately. And he's just doing it one bit at a time. I'm just like, are they trying to add a sense of dread? The action sequences, sadly, do not work. Although the one that maybe does, and the one that shocked me, and you mentioned it earlier, was with Jake Metzner. So to bring it back to the Metzners, who I really want to stress again, just how mad like Sally is clearly having a mental breakdown. Like she's had a mental breakdown years ago, like dealing with Jake. Yeah. Jake's clearly abusive. Their son's like the worst bully in the world. Jill is a sex fucking maniac. She's a complete pleb. And I was like, could they be in the kind of category, you do these lists every so often, for craziest on-screen families, the Metzners. It's just nobody knows about it because not enough people have seen this film. So it's like, so there's the Sawyers from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're pretty bad. The McAllisters from Home Alone, especially the secret patriarch, Peter McAllister, who on our podcast, we did discuss his, where does all that money come from, Peter? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on behind the scenes? How did you afford that house, Peter? Uncle Frank too, of course, but he's just a bellend. There's the Tenenbaums. There's the unnamed family from Yorgos Lanthimos' Dogtooth. If you haven't seen that, trust me, that film's pretty fucking wild. The Skywalkers, father and son trying to kill each other. Father killed his mother, incestual relationship with his sister. That's not to mention Kylo Ren. The Skywalkers, the more you think about it, they're actually pretty fucked up. The Thornbys and Knives Out are pretty mental, and the Kims and Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. I'd put the Metzners up against any of those, except for maybe the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Sawyers, perhaps.
I put the Griswolds in there as well.
Yeah, the Griswolds are psychos. The Griswolds are psychos.
They're
well, especially
insane.
him. Yeah. Especially when you take Cousin Eddie into consideration as well. I think there's a special place for the McAllisters because on the surface you think that they're okay, but the more you dig into it,
they are a mob.
They're a mob family. They're 100% a mob family. Absolutely.
Do you know?
But to bring it back, just to bring it back to the death of Jake. So of course Jake comes outside because he's just been absolutely ragging on his poor wife again. He sits down, so he said, "I'll have a smoke." I love the fact that he was smoking like an old-fashioned pipe. Immediately I was like, "Well, you get bonus points. That's pretty cool." And he's got an axe right behind him. You're like, "Well, I know how this is going to end." I did not expect him to die by having the handle stuck in his mouth.
The handle. You think the axe would end up in his skull? Yeah, no, handle down his throat. It had to be a pipe mine because it had to end up with the snowman, and he smoked that pipe after he. So the pipe was stolen from the father of the girl he raped.
Oh
and
my
he
goodness!
lit the pipe.
So see, when you stop and think, when you play it out like that, I'm like, it just keeps getting darker and darker.
Yeah,
this one's pretty fucked up.
Do you know sticking is a is a good term as well? Do you know when in the brothel at the top and Sam's trying to buy time for the store owner who likes to take 20% off everything?
Yeah.
To fill up his truck bed with antifreeze. And I argue there's not enough antifreeze in 5 minutes to fill that truck bed up. But by the by, when Frosty or Jack Frost is
that's Crazy Paul, isn't it? The guy who's trying to he ends up in the prison at the end. Yeah, he's out of his fucking mind as well. Yeah.
So when Jack Frost is trying to kill Sam, did he stab him in the side with an icicle dick?
Because I was going to ask.
The icicle grew out of Jack Frost.
Yeah.
But the only place it could look like it came from was his crotch.
Yeah, and the way it was shot, it was oddly sexual, and even like right at the end. So when Sam and Jack basically come off the roof and they land in the back of the truck filled with the antifreeze, and he essentially fights with a puddle in the back of that truck. Yeah. That whole sequence, it's hard to explain why, but it's weird. In the same way that sequence is weird. At face value, you're like, oh, well, he's stabbing Sam with an icicle coming out of his body. But the way they shoot it, and it's never quite made exactly clear where it's coming from, I'm like, is it an icicle dick? It could be an icicle dick. I mean, considering this movie just had a pretty egregious rape sequence, it's certainly not out of the question. But as I said, though, the fact that's happening to Sam makes it somehow worse because Sam feels like he's from a different movie. He's playing it pretty straight for most of this film. And then suddenly he has to deal with the FBI agents who you mentioned. It was just like a team version of Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Some of his lines, again, mental. There's one point where he shoots Jack Frost and he just shouts, "Made in America." I'm just like, what the fuck? What does that even mean? What are we trying to get at? Is that supposed to be a joke? Is that a reference I don't understand? And then he's got his weird scientist buddy, who for the most part is just there to be a dweeb. Until at the end, he suddenly turns into like a bit of a mad scientist, that classic, oh, you can't kill it. We need to experiment.
Not even a mad scientist. It's also he became the disciple of Jack Frost. Like, I need to know everything about you. I'm sorry we're doing this to you, kind of. Like, no. But
there's no hint of it in the build-up. It just suddenly happens. And then, one of the most visually impressive sequences in the film are when Jack has got inside the alien, and Jack gets inside the scientist, and he walks out, and it's like, remember the scene from Men in Black where the Aegis suit? Where he gets inside and his skin's all loose. I was like, that looks pretty badass. And then he kind of like pukes snow all over the ground. I'm like, but that sequence lasts all of 20 seconds. It's abandoned and they go straight into a bad pun about not eating yellow snow, despite the fact that there's no yellow snow around. But I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, I really didn't get, like, they'd run out of puns. There was no pun about puking up the thing. So it was just, don't eat yellow snow because you'll puke up a snowman, I guess.
All I could think is, right, when I was in university and I was like writing like a thesis or a paper, like last minute, like I used to leave them until like the day they were due in. They were like 3,000 words and you had to get them bound and everything. And I would start the day they were due, which is ridiculous. Somehow I pulled it off. But what I used to do was I'd open a bunch of textbooks because they all had to be referenced. So I would find quotes and basically write my paper around the quotes. Like I'd write them, I need this quote in it. So I'd write a sentence just to get the quote in.
Yeah.
It feels like they've got, like, someone's gone out and said, all right, write 20 snow puns. And then they're just like, come hell or high water, we're getting these in the film, even if we haven't got a scene to make it work. They're just like, all right, it's a scene. We're using pun number 3. Pun number 3 doesn't really have, we're using pun number 3. Okay, fair enough. And off to
we've used all the puns. We're left with the yellow snow pun. It's the most famous
that's the last
joke.
one.
It's the most famous joke. Oh, okay. Well, what about when he pukes it up? We can hint that if you eat yellow snow, you'll puke snow, I guess. Okay, yeah. That's tenuous, but we'll give it. The other one they seemed to latch onto was the snowballs joke. Everybody loved that joke.
Oh, they all loved it. And I'm sure somebody told it incorrectly later on.
Sam did. He said no balls. He didn't say snowballs. He said no balls. So
I thought that was just me. I was like, I'm pretty sure he just got that joke wrong.
What happened as well with Chekhov's snowman?
Mm-hmm.
Because you got Metzner again going, nobody looks under the tarp at my snowman. Nobody. So you're expecting it to be something that, like, even Jack Frost hiding under that, and they go to open it up, and he's there, and he kills him.
Yeah, you just like this like they make such a big deal of it in a sequence where nothing's happening. Like that was the sequence I was mentioning earlier, where Sam drives into town and he talks to everyone. You have a very brief introduction with all the people who are about to die, ostensibly. But the one thing they focus on is that tarp, and like, oh, you can't look into the tarp. The tarp is going to be a big deal. Chekhov's tarp, Chekhov's snowman, whatever you want to call it. Nothing happens.
Nope.
Very, very strange. But then you could say that about this whole film. It's just very, very strange. Every sequence, like, I actually think when it's, again, to bring it back to the sequence where Jack is stuck in the prison and they blow it up, I'm like, all right, that looks kind of cool. The FBI agent just randomly says, I hope somebody remembered to put out the cat. I was like, is that supposed to be a joke? I don't get it. Straight after that, I'm pretty sure there was a Blade Runner reference, because they have a zoom in on one of the characters' eyes and you see the flame in the eye. That's clearly a reference. I was like, dude, you can't put a reference to Blade Runner in Jack Frost. But they did, and apparently they got away with it. But it's like, even after that, you think, okay, is he dead? But then Jack comes back. But there's no big payoff. It's just like a really lame sequence with a bunch of hairdryers and the aforementioned antifreeze. And then the movie just kind of ends, I suppose. And then on to the sequel. And there is a sequel, isn't there?
There is a sequel, yeah. I think it's like set a year or two later. Mm-hmm. And they go to the Bahamas. I think it's the Bahamas. And they go in for the wedding of his deputy and the secretary.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the secretary's pretty good in this, actually.
Yeah. And
Marla, played by Marsha Clark. She's good.
They managed to... Or Jack manages to defrost himself, and then, I don't know, he can't melt under the sun. And he manages to have snow babies, I think, if I remember rightly. So you got mini little snowmen running around.
Of course you do. Although, in fairness, regardless of whether this belongs in the same pantheon as the likes of Freddy, Jason, it doesn't. Those characters have come back in just as ridiculous a format. It's like they've been dead as fucking dead by like the 4th film. They're like, no, they're back again. We're off to the races. The end of this film is strange, but I would argue it's nowhere as strange, nowhere near as strange. Sorry, I fucked up my sentence there. You know what I'm getting at. As the opening framing device, which I'm not sure if you found mental, but it doesn't fit with this film at all. So there's this really, basically, this film is like, the way it opens is somebody's telling the story of Jack Frost.
Yeah. Do you know who that is, by the way?
Who, the guy doing the voice?
That's the director.
Who's playing Uncle Henry? Well, he's clearly not an actor. So he's talking to his, I assume, his daughter, who has the most annoying voice in the world.
Yeah.
Her delivery is, again, like, so
I was expecting them to be like devils or something at the end of it. You'd expect it to be like
so
demons
too as well.
Or something, yeah.
Because she was playing a young girl, but there was almost a sense of sexuality. It was very, very strange. And then Uncle Henry, I was like, what's his relationship with this young girl? Because the way he's telling the story, at times he just gets really, really angry. And I was like, well, this is going to go somewhere. There's going to be an explanation for it. I actually thought the exact same thing you just said. That at the end you realize, again, Tales of Crypt style, it's a monster reading the story. No, it's just a bizarre opening which doesn't have any correlation to the rest of the film. But yeah, sorry if this all sounds mental. It's because this film is mental. It hardly hangs together as a movie.
And you can clearly tell that there was no governance to this film. Like I said, there was literally no governance. Just giving somebody free reign and go and do what you want to do. It's absolutely bonkers.
This, dare I say, needed another pair of eyes on it, just to kind of rein it in somewhere, work on the tone. But as I said, for all the criticism, because it is so easy to tear this film to shreds. Make no mistake, it provides all the ammunition you need to tear it to shreds. It is still oddly fun, not good, but oddly watchable. So don't let us completely put you off if you're looking for something admittedly dumb as a bag of hammers to watch this Christmas.
Watch this in the vein of like Rubber, where you've got the tire just running around killing people in a small town. It's kind of like the same fucking thing.
It's maybe going for that. It's not as good as Rubber.
I'm not saying it's as good as Rubber, but I'm saying it's kind of the same. It's just fun to watch something implausible. Be a killer.
But that's my issue. I think that's the kind of film I was hoping for, where you're just like, I know this film. It's called Rubber. It's about a killer tire. It's going to be stupid. But the difference is fundamentally that's a relatively well-made movie, whereas this is not. And I think that's the tone, everything else. That's not the issue. It's the fact that it just never really comes together on any level. But do you want to move? After I said that, do you want to move on to Rob's take? So this is the point where Rob usually picks out something innocuous that most folk wouldn't have noticed, but inexplicably drove him crazy. However, in this instance, I mean, I would suggest it's probably not all that innocuous.
No. So I've got two. So the main one would be the snowman physics problem. Right. Jack Frost is melting. He reforms. He drives cars. He wields weapons, but he never seems to obey any consistent rules. He's basically the Terminator. The T-1000 was made of slush. The horror logic kind of says don't question it, but physics teachers everywhere are screaming into their into their TVs at that point. It's just his rules are insane.
It's inconsistent. He doesn't follow the laws of physics in any shape or form. And I know, like you say, it's a horror movie. It's a killer snowman, but it's still weird and inconsistent.
But the one I'm going to go with is nobody saying to Sam and his kid, "We should get you to the hospital with all the antifreeze you both have probably swallowed." Like,
good point.
You took a dive, you took a swim in antifreeze. The next time you see them, they've put the antifreeze back into the tubs and then they're burying them with that random guy in the back filling up his car. But there was a big deal about antifreeze being in actually, it wasn't a big deal. I made a big deal of it myself. Antifreeze being in the oats. Nobody else seems to
that's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
Nobody made a big deal of it in the film. Like he didn't turn around and go, "Oh, my kid nearly poisoned me." He just laughed. They're all laughing his kid off like he is 5 years of age. He is 13 at a push. He should know better than to poison you with antifreeze.
Yeah, he's like, I know you can make the argument at that point he has bigger fish to fry, but I feel like any dad would be like, "Dude, you put antifreeze in the You made me first. You made me oatmeal, Ryan. That's fucking mental. But you put antifreeze. You do realize that would have killed me. You would have killed me. You fucking psycho." His son is a lunatic. Like you said, the Mexicans are they kind of suck up all the oxygen in the room in terms of just being the psychos on screen, and they are psychos. The secret psycho of this film is definitely Ryan, for sure. Yeah. Like you say, 13 years old, putting fucking antifreeze in his dad oatmeal, and that whole performance. "Oh, my dad's the best." I'm like, dude, he's clearly trying to kill his old man. Yeah.
We mentioned Chekhov a lot as well, right? But this is definitely Chekhov's oats. I mean, his dad chucks him in the bin and then picks him up because you've got that weird voiceover of, "Oh, but Daddy, I wanted to make you something nice." So he takes it back out of the bin, puts it onto his dashboard, and it's not used then until it needs to be used. But just everything about that was like, even the fact that I'll take it to work with me, so I'll get a baggie. Yeah. I won't get a Tupperware. I won't get a lunchbox. I'll get a baggie. Put as much as you can into this baggie.
And just putting any food into a bag like that is just inherently fucking mental. It reminds me of Charlie Day eating spaghetti out of a bag in Always Sunny. Yeah. It's and of course the whole point is he's a lunatic. It's who puts food into a bag like that? You must have Tupperware, dude. It's strange. But yeah, you mentioned there that what it ostensibly has is a little flashback, and there are a few flashback sequences in this film, and they're all shot horribly. It's a shame because all of them like cut back to Scott McDonald playing Jack Frost as Scott McDonald, before he becomes a killer snowman. He's wonderfully over the top, and he's actually quite fun. But the way they frame them is just so clumsy that it's just it kind of takes the edge off.
Yeah.
So by the time I'm kind of enjoying his performance, I'm still just about getting over the fact I'm just like, oh, is that really the best you could do for like a kind of callback sequence or what was like a memory? Well, we literally just said the word a minute ago.
Flashback.
Thank you so much. I don't know why that dropped out of my head. Bizarre. Anyway, favorite scene?
Well, as much as it was awful, I've got to say the bathtub attack, right?
It's a bold choice, sir.
So he melts into the tub. He reforms the rounded victim. It's absurd. It's disturbing, but it's unforgettable. It's Jack Frost auditioning for A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not saying I like it, but it makes you think.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree with you. Everything, and I've got to believe that it is a direct nod to Nightmare on Elm Street and the famous scene with Nancy in the bath.
Yeah.
Everything with the exception of the rape, like her getting into the bath and trying to be sexy doesn't work. It's horrible. Her getting raped by the snowman doesn't work. Horrible. The stuff in between, the bit where the snow comes up around her and goes into her mouth and everything, it's actually pretty cool. Like quite inventive, I think.
Because when she lifts up and she's trapped in him, it looks great. It is, like I said, it's disturbing, unforgettable, and absurd, but it's done really well. But then, unfortunately, then they thought, you know what? Because it looks like a rape scene, we'll just make it a rape scene. Because originally it wasn't like it was just him killing her by smashing her head against the wall. But they thought, no, that looks like a rape scene.
Yeah, usually the conversation is like, oh, wait a minute. This is starting to look a little bit like a rape sequence. We're going to have to reshoot this. Instead, they've gone the complete opposite and gone, this looks a bit like he's raping her. Let's lean into it. Jesus Christ, guys, that is a bold decision. Again, this is what happens when somebody from, isn't like taking a look at somebody from the outside, isn't keeping an eye on the project and being like, whoa, guys, we can't be doing that. Why? Because it's gross. Anyway, my favorite is probably the opening sequence. As I mentioned, aesthetically more interesting than the rest of the movie. Jack dying in the snow is like, it's like a wonderfully 80s style horror sequence.
The proper opening sequence, not the weird credits. Granddad.
No, not the credits thing. No. I hate that. I'm talking about them in the crash. Jack escaping.
Well, why you're transporting a prisoner for execution through the town he was caught in?
Yeah,
but you're actually in a van called Prisoner Execution Transport.
Yeah, and the thing is, they never even explain how Jack actually managed to escape in the first instance. So he's in the back, chained, with another cop sitting across from him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the other cop's dead, and you're just like, okay, how did that happen exactly? Doesn't matter. Let's just get on with it. But like I said, I thought the whole sequence was shot pretty well. Yeah. In terms of actually being visually pretty gross or, inventive, I thought, as I said,
up until the other truck hit them.
Oh, yeah.
Up until the other truck hit them and the other truck wasn't on the same road that they were on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, like I said, there's always a caveat to any sequence in this film. But, we've mentioned so many times in this podcast that skeletons just look better in the 80s. And the skeleton, Jack Frost's skeleton, before he kind of absorbs into the snow, just looks cool. It really does. And sure, when he becomes a snowman then, and, you've got the other cop or whatever he is, like the transport guy, he's just watching the whole thing. He seems totally nonplussed by the whole experience. He's just like, wow, that's weird. It's like, yeah, it's the weirdest thing you've ever fucking seen. But it's probably my favorite sequence.
Did Agent Manners kill him as well? Agent Manners goes up to the prison guard because he's going, it was a snowman. It literally, like, I shot it and it just walked away. Agent Manners turns around to him and goes, let's go take a walk. And that's the last time you see anything. Did he take that prison guard out into the woods and say, look at the flowers? Because it just feels like he was wrapping everything up.
He looked like the kind of guy who's ready to be shot as well. It's a blizzard. He's just been in a crash. I wouldn't be surprised if he took him out. The FBI agent, kind of lame, but, I'm sure he had it in the locker. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. Oscar season. So this is where we hand out 3 Oscars and 3 Razzies, as always, with nothing if not balanced. I'll go first, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Sure. The Oscar for Best Christmas Movie with a Rape Scene goes to this movie. There aren't many Christmas movies with a rape sequence, so this is by definition, I guess, the best and the worst. I think it might be the only one. Considering I don't want to Google that, we'll say this is the only one. Yeah, that is why
Yeah.
I've made that presumption. I was like, I am not going to Google Christmas rape movies. Number two, the Oscar for Best Actor in an otherwise horribly acted movie goes to Christopher Alport as Sheriff Sam Tyler or Tiller. As I mentioned earlier, he's just so much better than nearly everyone else in this film. The acting is pretty inconsistent across the board. I mean, you mentioned earlier, was it Shannon Elizabeth's first movie?
Yeah.
There's like a line where she like tries to be briefly serious and she's like, "The Lord forsook this house long ago." And I was like, "Oh no, we found the limit of her acting
Yeah.
and it's not very high." But anyway, she went on to do great things. Well, she went on to do American Pie. And
Yeah.
she was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was. Oh, and Strike Back Return or whatever it was, because she ended up being the mother, didn't she?
Oh, that
Yeah.
sequel was terrible. But it's bizarre. You know when like random movies just suddenly just start popping up in conversation for some odd reason. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back has just been a movie I've been like referencing in conversation a lot recently, and I have no idea why. Obviously, this one made sense, but anyway, doesn't matter.
She was also in Love Actually.
Was she?
Apparently, she was. I've never seen it, but she was Harriet the sexy one.
God, I can't remember. I have seen that actually, but I just can't remember it. But I saw it years ago. And the third Oscar for craziest on-screen family goes to the Metzners. I don't need to kind of keep going on
Yeah.
to labor the point, but yeah, they really are out of their fucking mind in this movie. So
Yeah.
those are my Oscars.
Right. So for me, the Oscar for the best performance by a carrot in a leading role, Jack Frost knows. Deadly, versatile, and surprisingly expressive.
Yes, certainly.
Best use of Christmas decorations as a murder weapon, the fairy light strangulation. Twinkling holiday cheer turned into a deadly chokehold.
Yeah, did you find that sequence was kind of ruined by the music? Because they did it with another sequence. So to bring it back, like I actually thought conception, and so many points of this film, you could say the same thing about it. Conceptually brilliant, but then the actual execution wasn't up to much. So the sequence when Jill and her boyfriend go to Sam's house, and the first thing they do is basically strip down, like they're about to have sex, and then you realize that they're wearing tons of layers because it's in the snow, and they just keep taking off layers and layers, and eventually she hasn't actually taken off all that much. I'm like, I love the idea of that sequence, but they play it with such lame music that it just kind of ruins it. And it's the same with the murder sequence of is it Sally? We were saying Sally Metzner, whatever.
Sally
the hell her name
Metzner,
is.
yeah.
So yeah, some odd musical choices in this film.
And finally, the Oscar for the best snowman transformation sequence has to be the prisoner transport crash plus genetic acid. Now, science says no, but horror says yes at this one, I think.
Yeah, visually, it's one of the best sequences in the film. So wise choice. And the Razzie for horniest female goes to Shannon Elizabeth as Jill Metzner. Like she doesn't give a fuck. Oh wait, maybe she does give a fuck. I don't know. But all I mean, she
either way in this film,
is horny.
Either way in this film, she was getting laid. Like, oh.
Well, she never. Yeah, I guess she doesn't. Yeah, Jesus Christ, let's not go down that road again. The Razzie for most annoyingly written on-screen child goes to Zach Edgington as Ryan Tiller or Tyler. Again, just to be clear, written on-screen child. Like, I don't think his performance is inherently annoying. I just think he's horrendously written. And finally, the Razzie for most useless lock goes to the window lock at the prison sheriff's office. Just break the glass, guys. Jesus Christ. It could have easily been the Razzie for longest attempt to grab a key as well, but I'll stick with what I've got.
So for me, the Razzie for worst law enforcement response goes to this film. Snowman rampage in a small town, and the cops still look confused.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah. The Razzie for the most questionable physics. The winner, Jack Frost driving a car. No feet, no hands, just pure snow-powered chaos.
You really didn't like that, did you? You have this every so often with a movie. For all the things that are weird about this film, you're just like, I don't like this cunt in a car. Just not buying it. Although I'm not sure, because I should have rewound it and double checked. But when Jack initially gets into the car, I'm pretty, because all you see is his head, because he's just too big for a start. It looks like he's in the back seat.
He jumps in the back seat, yeah.
And then but like instantaneously, he just appears in the front of the car and he's off to the races. Yeah,
it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, this movie has problems. Who knew? Jesus Christ.
And finally, the Razzie for the least convincing horror villain, the winner, Jack Frost design. It's more goofy mascot than terrifying monster. I mean, audiences laughed when they should have screamed, I think, at this film.
Well, they tried at the end to add a little bit of horror.
They gave him the icicle teeth.
Yeah, they give him icicle teeth, and he very briefly looks like, well, it looks like they're trying to make him look a bit more like the poster. So if you haven't seen the poster, he looks like a proper monster.
He's got eyes. He's got fucking eyes, proper eyes in that poster.
Yeah, basically, it's completely non-representative of the film that you watch. And like I said, for the most part, I actually think the fact that he looks like a just kind of lame ass, whatever, snowman would work if they could get him to move. But yeah, they try and add a bit of horror by giving him icicle teeth at the end, and it just doesn't work at all. It just looks silly.
Yeah.
Any alternative titles for this film? Did anyone think? Well, I was going to know. I can't blame them because this came out before Michael Keaton's Jack Frost. So yeah. They're well within their rights.
Right. So do we have alternative titles?
I'll be surprised, man.
Germany, Jack Frost, the Ice Cold Killer.
Okay, yeah.
Greece, Maniacal Snowman.
Sure.
Mexico, Jack Frost, Terror on the Ice.
Mm-hmm.
Romania, The Killer Snowman.
Mm-hmm.
And Russia, just Snowman.
Do you know what's weird, right? This is demonstrably one of the worst movies that we've covered. I would say that was one of the strongest collections of alternative movie titles we've come across, because usually like you get like a few stinkers. Most of those I'm like, they're all pretty good. They're all pretty decent. Most are actually better than just Jack Frost, especially considering that Jack Frost came out the year after. So yeah, decent selection there. Any facts for this film?
Yeah, there's actually a lot more than there was for Dead End, which had one fact last week.
Jesus, that was grim. That was grim reading. Yeah. I was feeling really good about Dead End, especially when I saw how much it made on DVD sales. Like, people like this film. It's got loads of facts. One fact.
Right. So, yeah. So as Billy is making a combined oatmeal, beside him, there's a small marshmallow snowman with an arm off, foreshadowing that Billy would get attacked by the killer snowman's remaining arm at the end of the film. That's a stretch, I think. But
yeah, that's more like a blooper. I don't know.
No. Speaking of blooper, no one actually called the police to the house where the Metzner parents were killed. They just showed up.
Yeah, it's because I suppose
the lunatic, whatever his name was, the one who owned the store, he didn't call the police. He was too busy running from the snowman.
Yeah, I guess he didn't. Mm-hmm.
The buried antifreeze containing Jack Frost's cellular remains starts bubbling at the last scene, indicating a sequel, which eventually got made. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Writer-director Michael Cooney did the voice of the man who tells the story of Jack Frost over the opening credits. Marsha Clark, the actress who played the dispatcher in the film, did the voice of the little girl.
Yeah, she did a great job.
Yeah. One actor who read for the role of Jack Frost pulled a knife at his audition.
God damn.
Yeah, I mean, in character, Jesus
Christ. Get him on screen.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
The movie was shot in the winter during a drought year with no snow on the ground. According to actor Scott McDonald, the temperature got as high as 70 degrees. Foam and cotton swabs had to be used as snow substitutes. The cotton would get increasingly dirty as the shoot went on, and the filmmakers had no money to regularly replace the cotton.
Maybe they got so comfortable around it and the fact that you can take it anywhere. That would explain why when Sam goes into, is it the church or the community centre where they all go?
Well, they said church because they said Father, whatever his name is open. So, but it looked like a community centre. Well, it looked like a fucking brothel at the end. But still.
Yeah, it did look a bit like brothel. Well, whatever it was, he goes there and there's at one point he's talking to a bunch of kids saying about, oh, you've got to stay here, whatever. And they're all like basically juggling with snowballs. They're indoors. I'm like, I don't think that works at all, guys, in the long run. But yeah, it is what it is.
Shannon Elizabeth's first acting role in a movie and her first nude scene. She filmed this film before she got the breast implant she reveals in American Pie. I mean, why we need that as a fact, I don't know. It's a figure in that film.
You say this, it isn't a nude sequence in this. Obviously, she is kind of nude, but you don't see.
She's covered in everything. She's covered in snow. She's covered in water.
You never. I wouldn't class this as a nude scene.
But basically, they're just saying her tits got bigger in American Pie.
Yeah. Fair enough.
The bathtub scene was filmed towards the end of shooting and was the most complicated to shoot. It was shot in one day on a soundstage. The bathtub was built on a raised set, for the shot where Jack rises out of the tub. The stunt coordinator in the snowman costume and Shannon Elizabeth was strapped together on a scissor lift that raised them up 12 feet in the air through the fake tub. The scissor lift took forever to work, but they got it working and got the shot. While shooting the part where Jack hits her head against the wall, the snowman's carrot nose hit Shannon in her eye. Medics were called in, they put salt water in her eye, and afterwards, everything else went smoothly.
Oh, well, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. No other notes on that sequence, no other notes.
No. Originally written as a straight horror movie with a $30 million budget, when Prism Entertainment offered the producers to make it for $500,000, the original script was loaded with visual effects that the producers took out to accommodate for the low budget. The next thing that happened was they saw the Jack Frost costume during pre-production and realized it was goofy and won't scare anyone. They had no more money to fix this, and so Cooney and the producers realized they were going to have to embrace it and rewrote it to a comedy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The movie was shot on short ends, hundreds of 300-foot leftovers of 1,000-foot rolls that major film producers discard. Low-budget productions often buy short ends because they're cheap, but the buyers have no way to know the quality of the film stock, which can result in a low-quality film.
I mean, yeah, they spent all their money on the snowman. What can you do, man?
Yeah. According to director Michael Cooney, the film's production was heavily delayed due to issues with financing. So I'm assuming they didn't film it when you said, but it was delayed. The film's production was delayed because of the financing.
So I thought maybe I got the impression that they had started filming a while ago and that the film was finished and they just didn't know what to do with it, and eventually it was released anyway. But hey ho. One thing I want to mention, just in case you like, there was one bit of like real nostalgia for me is when I saw the Mr. Frosty toy. I was like, I haven't seen one of those in donkey's years. And it was one of those like random toys where I think I always wanted one, but I wasn't sure why. Just because it seemed kind of, I don't know, quite fancy to me as a kid. It probably wasn't, but it seemed fancy to me as a kid, that's for sure. But then Viennettas used to seem very fancy to me, and now you can get them for £1 in Iceland.
I know.
That's when I really realised how working class I was as a kid, because I was completely convinced that Viennettas were fancy as fuck. And then one day in the supermarket, I saw Viennetta on a stick, and I was like, oh no, anything that comes on a stick, it's just not fancy at all.
I do that to my wife because to me, Viennettas were the rich person's
dessert that's exactly what I thought.
And I grew up working class like you. My wife was, should we say, had better means. So every time she mentions things like she won't touch a Viennetta, she looks down on a Viennetta. And I said, well, I grew up poor, love. To me, a Viennetta is like the rich man's dessert.
Dude, I had a Viennetta for the first time a few years ago. They're good. They're good, Viennetta.
Like a Viennetta. Jesus, I did not know about a Viennetta on a stick, but I might have to go and find one now.
Listen, I don't look down my nose to any kind of food. None whatsoever, I can assure you that.
One more fact, the final fact.
Cool.
The Jack Frost snowman prop was hard to maneuver. The only time the Jack is actually seen moving is the Look Ma, I'm a Picasso scene, where he explodes and puts himself back together strangely. That scene was shot in time lapse because the stuntman could barely move inside the costume.
Yeah. It kind of like, it felt like a nod to The Thing almost. I think maybe that's what they were going for. Hope to the Future, so this way has a question. Remake, sequel, Let It Die or Leave Well Alone. Well, there was a sequel. I'm not convinced we need additional sequels. I mean, if I was going to have anything, I would have a prequel movie just about the Metziners. Nothing to do with Jack Frost, just how fucking bananas the Metziners were. Just like a low-key Texas Chainsaw Massacre style story.
What made them insane? What led to that family just being psychos?
How dark is Jake and Sally's relationship really? Like, what led to Sally having that mental breakdown? Because we see her, she's post mental breakdown in this movie, like throughout the whole thing. She's clearly just lost the plot, lost her fucking mind. I want to see the movie where she is being pushed over the edge, where she used to be a normal woman, and Jake and her fucking horrible kids have just tipped her over the edge. That'd be mine. A prequel movie about the Metziners.
I'd actually see a remake because with the way things are now, CGI and things like that, you could actually have the snowman do a lot of interesting kills and stuff like that. I mean, the story definitely needs to be looked at. Snow doesn't have to be in everything. Jack Frost, he's a snowman in Snowmanton. You don't need to go that fucking deep.
I fundamentally agree with you, because we've talked about this before. It's like, don't remake great movies which are already fantastic. Like, this is fundamentally a pretty good idea. There's a put this way, like we said, like there is a better version of this movie waiting to be made. So I think you are right. So remake's probably the correct answer. Video games. So unsurprisingly, there wasn't a Jack Frost video game in 1997. The first one that came to mind was get Konami on board, have basically Silent Hill, only it's called Snowmanton, and Jack Frost is basically like the alien from Alien Isolation, and you mentioned like in the sequel he has like his little kids. Those are kind of knocking around Snowmanton. You've got to sort those guys out, and then you basically have to just run away from Jack. But because this film is so budget and there's like a level of jank about every aspect of this film, I was like, maybe I'd go more for Access Games and Swery's Deadly Premonition. I'm not sure if you've ever played that. It's very much, it's basically Twin Peaks, the video game. Okay. But that game is janky as fuck, but it's got like a really cool tone to it and it's quite fun, despite the fact that it's ostensibly a bad game, kind of like this. So I'll probably go with Access Games and Swery's Deadly Premonition.
I would have gone with Crimson Duck Studios' Frosty Nights from 2017.
There you go. That
It's
is a deep
basically,
cut.
yeah, it's an indie horror game where an evil snowman comes to life at night. Players must survive by keeping the doors locked and watching for movement. It's kind of like Five Nights at Freddy's in that case. It's got the killer snowman vibes. Obviously, Jack Frost is reimagined as a jump scare simulator. But
Mhm.
if you look at the comparisons, Jack Frost leans into the campy gore and absurd one-liners. Frosty Nights will strip away the comedy and goes full tension. The film makes you laugh at the snowman's goofy grin. The game makes you dread hearing his footsteps outside the door. It's a Christmas, like one is a cult Christmas slasher, the other is a minimalist indie scare machine. But they both prove the snowmen are way creepier at night than they are in daylight.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you mentioned there actually in terms of like budget and what this film could have been, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, which is one of those like series which I felt like built up around me. Like I kept hearing this name, but I just thought it was some kind of niche thing. And then I
Yeah.
suddenly found out that the games were massive and the movie was this really big deal. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. I was like, I had no idea it was this
No,
popular.
it totally passed me by as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I watched the film. It's absolutely fine, but we're not the right age for it. I think maybe if
Mm.
I'd watched it when I was like 14, I might have had a stronger relationship with it. But in terms of like budget and tone, that's actually probably closer to what I would want. Like, you mentioned making a remake to this film. That's
Yeah.
probably closer to what I would want for this.
Yeah.
Is something like Five Nights at Freddy's, only maybe just lean a bit more into the violence. That's all. But that's what
I think I mentioned it before every time we mentioned it, but the Five Nights at Freddy's film I actually enjoy was the Nicolas Cage Willy's Wonderland.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
which I still haven't watched. I need
yeah.
to watch. But that's like the more violent version again, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
but that's more for people our age, I think.
Yeah, but maybe
that's what you expect.
I haven't seen that, but maybe that's exactly what I'm thinking when I'm thinking of the Jack Frost remake. Is
Yeah.
like I said, that kind of tone, but just a bit more violent. So maybe it is Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah.
Best and worst of IMDb. So that's where we pick a random 10-star and 1-star review. Before we do that, I guess how many written reviews there are for this
Sorry,
film?
dude. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if do we usually do making a change before we do?
Oh, we do make a change. My apologies. I
Yeah.
usually do that before video games. I've just scrolled past it. That's my bad.
Okay.
I mean, make a change. Jesus Christ, where to start? Well, to bring it back to what I was talking about a minute ago, genuinely, if I was going to make one change and only one change to make this movie better, it's the violence. I'd make the kills more effective.
Yeah.
Some of them are okay, but too many of them are just a little bit like whatever, and they never quite make the snowman work. So, yeah, I would just make this film a little bit more violence and a bit more impactful.
Okay. I mean, we could have skipped this because I've said it like 7 times, but one change that can make the film better is to tighten the internal logic around Jack Frost's abilities. Establish
Here we
clear,
go. It's the fucking car again.
establish clear, consistent rules for how long he melts, how he reforms, how he moves. This would make the horror feel more grounded and believable. You're enhancing tension without losing the campy charm. Additionally, giving Jack Frost a proper slasher soundtrack with a twisted Christmas Carol motif would elevate the atmosphere and make his appearance more chilling. So, like I did with Mama, he just needs a villain theme.
He does need a villain
yeah.
theme. Although, listen, just to be clear, I am not comparing Jack Frost to Terminator 2. However, when you see a film which does it properly, they don't go to any great lengths to explaining the T-1000's powers. There's one sequence when he says, "Oh, he can't turn into guns, only stabbing weapons and all that shit."
Yeah.
But via an element of like showing and not telling, you basically get an idea of what the limits of the T-1000 are and what it's capable of just by showing you on screen. This movie doesn't do that. He just does stuff. And you're like, is this allowed? What can he do? And like you say, it's like at one point he literally seems like he can do anything, and then next thing you know, he can't get to a door because there's a fucking piece of paper in the side of it.
He's instantaneously in a car to run over the deputy, but it takes him about 15 minutes while Sam is trying to get the key out of the fucking lock.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
It just takes forever for him to transform. It doesn't, again, it's inconsistent. So I can see why it might drive one crazy, even in a film as silly as this.
Yeah.
In terms of, to go back to best and worst of IMDb, how many written reviews there are for it, I can't imagine there's too many, but I suspect this is probably a bit more of a cult classic than I suspect. So I'm going to say like 120?
223.
223. See, I thought I'd underplayed it, but of those, Jesus Christ, how many psychos are going to give this 10 stars? There are some, I assume.
Yeah, there's a few.
So 217?
26.
Oof.
Yeah,
Jeez Louise. One too far off. That's a lot. That's 27 more than it should be.
Written in December 2022, Jack Frost is a classic.
Easy there,
Jack,
Tiger.
Jack Frost is a classic, as is the abominable snowman is legendary. I would never disrespect Santa Claus. All his movies are perfect, as is these Jack and the Snowman are.
What the
Okay,
fuck?
that makes no sense. Okay.
Yeah,
Even if these
sorry, I
movies,
just briefly thought I was having a stroke then. I was like,
no,
what is
yeah,
going on?
dude, I read these and think I'm having like people must think my grammar is awful every time I read these things. Like, I
Yeah, no,
can't
it
read.
is worth mentioning. You are reading it verbatim. This is exactly what you're seeing in front of you. There's no
Yeah.
preparation. We're just reading what's written.
Even if these movies are about the Christmas holiday, it'll be perfect in its severity. From my understanding, a movie is made the way it's made with the understanding of all the ups and downs, pros and cons. This is a reason I like every movie created and give all movies perfect rated. Image me not watching any movie created less than 100 times. Easy solution, not going to happen. I'm here to tell you the truth. If you not have been already informed, everyone on Earth watches every movie on Earth.
What the fuck just happened? Did
I
you honestly
don't
just pick this
know.
by accident? Was this just
I
a
pick,
random one?
I never read them beforehand. I grab them all by and
Wow, that
I
was.
read them. Yeah,
I mean, in fairness, that read exactly how I imagined a 10-star review for 1997's Jack Frost would read. But yeah, that was lively. That guy's got some
dude,
problems.
he's basically just saying every movie he ever watches, he gives 10 stars to.
Just
Yeah,
because, and
because
everybody's
everyone
watched
on
every movie.
because everyone on Earth watches every movie on Earth.
Of course,
Yeah.
naturally. So yeah, that was insane. 1-star reviews. Please tell me there, because this was came as a bit of a surprise last week. We covered Dead End, a film which I think is genuinely good. Although I think I caveated beforehand that horror is subjective, and it's one of those films. It's either going to work or it doesn't. I was still surprised to see that more people gave that film 1 stars than 10.
So
If
I'll let you off. I'll give you a hint. It's less than 10 stars.
shut, is it fucking really?
Yeah, there's less 1 stars than ten
See,
stars.
this is what I'm talking about, man. Like that's just not right at all. I'm not saying I'm going to give this film a 1-star review, but a 1-star review for this film is perfectly acceptable. Make no
Yeah,
mistake. But,
absolutely. Yeah,
all right, I'll go with my initial answer again, whatever it was, 17.
18.
Oh, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. Pretty close.
Uh, so this was written in January of 2022. Everybody watching Jack Frost in 2022, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Titled "What Did I Just Watch?"
Yep.
I mean, seriously, I've seen some bad movies before, but come on, Larmageddon had better production values. They didn't seem,
Larmageddon. Awesome.
yeah, they didn't seem to care about anything production related. The scar on the face of the serial killer was blatantly coming off in a scene where he's directly yelling into the camera, and no one caught that. The word cemetery is misspelled on a map that they show twice. Forget the
Wonderful.
campy camera angles, story, over the top props, and sets. It was all just one big crap fest that they figure is a comedy about halfway through production. Let's also realize the kid was trying to kill his dad with the oats. No one
Yeah.
picked up on that. Plus, when the woman is killed with the Christmas tree, who called the cops? Everything we said.
Well, who would have known that the 1-star review for this absolute turd of a movie makes loads more sense than the 10-star review for this movie? Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there. Like I said, as to whether you get any joy from it, that depends on, like I said, the so bad it's good thing. But if it doesn't fit into that category for you and you just think it's bad, then yeah, it's really goddamn bad for many of the reasons he just said. As for our own ratings and recommendations, I mean, at one point, I was thinking about giving this 1 star, and I've only given 1 star once before, and that was to another Christmas movie you picked, and that was Santa's Sleigh, was it?
Oh, will you leave Santa's sleigh alone? Santa's sleigh is perfectly fine. Everyone on Earth watches every movie on Earth.
Of course,
and it
sorry.
10 stars. Come
yeah,
on now.
no, sorry, I forgot about that. That is a pretty big caveat. No, for me, it ended up as a 2. It's a no. I wouldn't suggest anyone necessarily go out and watch this film. I mean, like I said, if you go in with the right state of mind, and let's be clear, if you're putting on Jack Frost and you see the poster, you know what you get into. It's on Tubi. It's a stupid B movie. There is potential fun to be had. It's not completely without merit. It's just like we've covered in the last hour or so. It's like every time something kind of works, there's always an issue. There's always something I don't like. So I'm going to give it a 2, but I wouldn't go out my way to recommend this to anyone.
I will caveat as well that just because I pick these kind of films doesn't mean
Oh no,
it's ones
because you loved it
I
when. I mean, let's be clear. This came out in 1997. You probably 15, 16 when you watched it.
Yeah.
I can totally understand at that age you'd watch it, be like, oh, it's fun. It's a snowman killing everyone. that's part of the point of this podcast is you go back. Like, I remember, like, that one of the most famous ones, the ones we talked about for ages, and I think we did for episode 200, was Robot Jocks.
Yeah.
And I think both of us knew, like, we both loved that film growing up. I think we both knew that film wasn't going to be great.
No.
And it wasn't, but it was still fun to talk about. And I remember really liking that film.
Yeah.
And it's just yeah. So sometimes it doesn't work out. They're not all classics. They can't all be winners, ladies and gentlemen.
But I'm going to give it a 1.5. Because
that's exactly what I would have given it.
Yeah, it's a 1.5. I figured it'd be 1.5 for you, but you just can't give something half a star. So
no, this week, no, I am going to fold because it was only because I liked one or two sequences, and a 1 star feels so harsh for this podcast, but 1.5 is correct. Yeah. Because there are just like little hints every time. So I'm like, that's kind of fun, but it's a bad movie. It's bad fucking movie.
It's a 1.5, and I wouldn't recommend it. Like, if somebody turned around to me and said, "Should I watch this film?" I'm like, no. I mean, there's better films to watch.
Of course there are. Yeah. There are so many better films. Watch Rubber instead. Who gives a fuck if it's Christmas? If you want to watch a goofy film with a ridiculous premise, watch Rubber instead. So, I think we're both happy with that. 1.5 and no from us. So that has been 1997's Jack Frost. Do not mix it up with 1998 Jack Frost, which, let's be clear, isn't a great movie itself. I'm not sure if you ever watched the Michael Keaton one. It's a very different movie.
I've ironically seen it more than I've seen this one.
It's not great, is it?
No, it's not the best.
No, it's just the snowman looks better. Like, that would have been cool. Like, if you took that movie, the exact same movie, but then like halfway through, he's just like, fuck this, and I'm just going to start killing people. I'm like, with Michael Keaton as the snowman? Yeah. That's the film we should have seen. That should have been
a year later, and a bigger budget, you could get a better killer snowman, because the movements of Jack Frost and everything in that film, when he's shooting hockey and he's doing everything. I think so much better.
It was like, I was listening to a podcast recently. They were talking about Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, and hiring, who's the guy who played Frodo Baggins? What's his name?
Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood, thank you. And he said one of the reasons he was so perfect for it is because he had like the sweetest smile in the world. But if he just forced that same smile a little bit and held it a bit too long, it immediately became insane. And that's why if you take that snowman and it looks like a lovely everyday snowman, but then you just hold that smile just a little bit too long, stretch it out, you're like, oh, it suddenly just becomes creepy. It doesn't have to have all the teeth. I like the fact that it, for the most part, it's passing as an everyday snowman, but then it just gets that little twinkle in its weird coal eyes, and suddenly you're off on a killing spree or whatever. But and I love the idea of Michael Keaton playing the killer version. That'd be awesome.
That Michael Keaton film gave us the best pun as well, the best snow pun. That No Dad is better than No Dad.
Snow Dad is better than No Dad. Literally, when we were talking about remake sequels, Let It Die, Leave Well Alone, the answer is you take Jack Frost from 1997, you take Jack Frost from 1998, and you just smash them together.
And you get a bastardized version of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Neither of those movies work. If you smash them together, you get a borderline perfect horror comedy. I'm convinced.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Like, now I'm just like, who would you cast? 100% Michael Keaton. You'd be amazing.
He can still do it because he hasn't got to do anything.
I'm so glad we came to this realization before the end of the podcast, because that suddenly feels perfect. So that's been 1997's Jack Frost. Next week, and the third part of a Hugmas season of alternative Christmas movie podcast, it's my choice again, which is weird, but there is a good reason for this. It's because you're getting the fourth choice.
Well, Jack Frost was my choice last week, so we're in perfect.
Oh, no. Yeah, what am I talking about? I'm just totally making that up. I do apologize. My notes are completely fucked. All right, so the year is 2010.
I honestly thought you were going 2015. I don't know.
This might help, even though you won't know who it is. The style of name might help. The director is Jelmari Hellander.
Oh, was it 2010? Are we going Rare Exports?
We are going Rare Exports. And yes, I was also fucking shocked that this was released in 2010, which brings us back. Sorry, I had to bring it up because it bizarrely 2003's Identity came up last week because we couldn't believe that it was made in 2003, and it's a movie we both like. The director of this, Michael Cooney, he was one of the writers on Identity.
It last week.
It's just crazy. Absolutely bonkers. But if anything, we're just kind of building up to the fact that at one point we're going to cover 2003's Identity. But I think most famously nowadays is it stars Jorma Tommila of Sisu fame.
Yeah.
So and
directed by the director who you expertly said I'm not going to try and do
Hellander
is the brother-in-law.
Yes. And
so
I
Sisu's
have
brother-in-law.
very fond memories of this. And the reason you probably thought I was going to say 2015 is because ostensibly it was between this and the Krampus.
Yeah.
And it was odd because one of the listeners, one of my friends, put in Winsk, Adam Avazidin, whatever you want to call him. It felt like he was really pushing for the Krampus. And I was like, oh, is it held up pretty well? And he was like, no, it's not very good. I was like, oh, you've kind of talked me out. Because I really was looking forward to seeing the Krampus, I remember, when it came out. And then I saw it and I remember being distinctly underwhelmed. And I was like, well, why can't, like, I remember this film being good and I've not seen it since 2010. So then I went to my wife and I was like, listen, we're between the Krampus and we're between that and Rare Exports.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I totally forgot we watched both of those. She was, oh, but I remember Rare Exports being good. I was like, yeah, same here. Let's cover that. So,
I mean, I'm happy either way, but yeah, I honestly thought you were going to go down the route because I saw him comment this week and I thought, as soon as you said 2050, I don't need anything else. I know what we're doing. And then you just went 2010 and you just.
How about I put it to you then?
No, I'm good with Red. No, don't put it on me because.
No, I'm not saying I'd change it, but if you were going to pick one out of those two to cover.
Rare Exports.
Rare Exports, yeah. Because it was a close call, but. Yeah.
I've seen Krampus. I like Krampus. It's not very memorable.
Yeah, that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
That's my
not very memorable.
It just kind of washed. My overriding memory of it is that it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It felt like it was kind of like Joe Dante light. That was. It makes me like,
and this one is like, if I remember Rare Exports rightly, all the Santas, Grotto Santas, like, are the elves to the real Santa? Like,
yeah.
I really want to go back and watch Rare Exports, and like I said, with Sisu coming out and stuff. So sorry, sorry, Adam, mate, but you've been overruled by Liam's
Maybe
wife.
Maybe next year we'll get to the Krampus. But just a reminder before we wrap this up, if you've come this far, do leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice and share and like all that podcast good stuff. Anything else to add before we wrap this up, sir?
No, just a thank you to everybody that's been sharing with us this week that our podcast seems to be on your top listener of choices in your Spotify Wrapped. We've had a couple who've messaged us this week to say we're either their top podcast, which begs the question of what else you're listening to, or we're in the top 5 of the list. So I just want to thank all the listeners out there.
I'm keen on everyone giving our podcast a listen. I'm not sure if anyone needs that much Liam or Rob in their life, to be honest. If it's their top podcast, like Jesus Christ. I mean, but then I see some of the other ones. I'm like, Joe Rogan's top again. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you do better. The world would be a better place if more people listen to this. I have nothing against Joe Rogan, but it all gets a little bit political and weird. But whatever.
If you've listened to 500 hours of us.
Wowzers. We should be sending them money. Fucking hell. Unbelievable. Okay, I've been Liam, he's been Rob, and you have been listening, some of you a lot, to the Hey You Guys podcast. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye now.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Hey, you guys!